Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It is so good to be back. It is so good to see everyone. Hello. So, what can we talk about today? Well, obviously, the biggest news by far is going to be that Nintendo has announced the Switch OLED edition. So, the OLED edition. What does this mean, right? What does it mean for Nintendo's hardware future? What does it mean for a Switch Pro? What happened with all of those rumors? When is Switch 2 going to be here? Etc., etc. There is a lot that we can talk about and break down with this. How much is it going to sell? You know the drill. So we can, of course, talk about Switch OLED. Also, we have a new report out of Bloomberg talking about how the next Assassin's Creed game is going to be Assassin's Creed Infinity. Sounds like they're taking that franchise in a totally different direction, right? Well, I shouldn't say totally different, but expanding kind of what they were already doing with Odyssey and Origins and Valhalla. But basically turning it into like a platform, right? Not just individual games, but like games inside of a larger structure, kind of a games as a service type deal. So we can talk about that, right? What does it mean for the future of that franchise? What does it mean for Ubisoft overall, right? They seem to have quite a bit of changes going on in their direction in that company. So we can talk about that. We can basically talk about anything that you guys want to, right? This show is 100% driven by you, by your comments, your questions. So if this is your first time ever in my live chat, start dropping those down into chat. And basically the way this works, I just get to as many questions as I possibly can. Now, there's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method, right? You just type a question into chat, it pops up in my feed, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. However, if you want to 100% guarantee that you get your question answered, the way to do that is going to be the super chat option. Of course, though, don't feel obligated or pressured to donate into the super chats. That's just a way to kind of support me, support the channel, and guarantee that I get to your question. But let's get rocking, all right? Let's get rocking. One thing really quick off the top, just wanted to say thank you, everyone. The Twitter account is now over 25,000 followers. Thank you so much. That is really, really cool. The support has been unreal, especially, I would say, over the last, year. It's really gone to another level. So thank you so much, everyone, for 25,000 followers. I was just saying thanks for 20,000 followers in April. Now it's already up to 25. So that's crazy. And thank you so much, everyone. All right, let's get rocking into questions. Javier Macias Leon here right off the bat saying, "Hi Benji, sorry to have missed the last chats. I've been a little busy. I hope you are fine." No problem at all, Javier. I totally understand. Not everyone's going to be able to make every chat, right? I do these every single week and they're not always going to be at the best times for people. So totally understand, Javier. So you said that Switch could surpass PS2 sales. Do you think it's still possible if Nintendo doesn't sell a Switch Pro and the OLED Switch is its last new model? Also, any predictions for the state of play? Yeah, this is going to be really interesting, right? So, Switch OLED is $350, so it's actually that the Switch is getting a price increase. Now, my belief, we'll see if this ends up panning out, but my guess, my belief, considering this is so similar to standard Switch, I expect that this is going to eventually replace the standard Switch, right? I don't think that you're going to see the regular model Switch that we see on shelves right now there in the next 2 to 3 years. So my guess is eventually this OLED replaces the standard Switch. Maybe whenever they make that shift, they drop that $50 off and this becomes the new $300 model. Or maybe they just leave it up at $350 because they think they can get away with it. But I don't necessarily think that we're going to see the Switch model we have right now and the OLEDs all on store shelves, like I said, for the next 2 to 3 years. That just seems unlikely to me because the OLED is so similar to the standard Switch. That would be a bit of a surprise to me. So can it still outsell PS2 even if we don't get a Pro? Ooh, I mean, it's possible. I'll tell you what, I was more enthusiastic about it possibly doing that if Pro was real, because I thought you would get a lot of upgrades, right? A lot of people with regular Switches that would go out and buy a Pro if they were getting like more powerful hardware, if it was going to make games like Breath of the Wild 2 run better. Like, I thought you could get a ton of upgrades from regular Switches to that. With the OLED model, I mean, I do think you're going to get some people that are going to upgrade, but not to the level a Pro would, right? Because it's a very overall minimal boost, especially if you're playing docked, right? If you're playing docked, you're going to see almost no advantage with the OLED model. This really enhances the portability. So while I still think it's potentially possible it could outsell PS2, I am way less bullish on that sort of a prediction than I would have been with an actual Pro, if that makes sense. So I would say it's now more of a challenge than it would have been before. And then predictions for the state of play. I'm not expecting anything like massive, like shocking, giant, holy cow, we never saw this coming. Sony seemed to kind of temper expectations with their tweet that they sent out and the blog article about it. They flat out said no Horizon. They flat out said no God of War. They said no PSVR 2. This says to me, they specifically mentioned those, but that basically says to me they're kind of messaging, don't expect big, giant, holy cow, massive reveals at this particular state of play. They flat out said it's going to be focused on Deathloop, indies, and some exciting third-party stuff, but I don't think that's going to be big stuff either, right? Don't expect Forspoken to be there. Don't expect Final Fantasy 16 to be there, etc. So I would just go into this state of play with pretty low expectations. And whenever I say low, we could see some awesome indie stuff, and Deathloop looks good, right? So I'm not saying go in there and be like, oh, this is just going to completely suck, right? I'm not saying that. I would go into this state of play expecting that. Deathloop, indies, maybe a couple cool third-party things, but not like massive reveals, and you'll probably leave, at least with your expectations met. If you go in here expecting this is going to be Final Fantasy 16, this is going to be, I think you'll leave very disappointed. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. But they have a lot of cool indie stuff on the way, so I mean, that could still be really exciting if you go in expecting the right things. Split End 89 saying Benji. And then he's saying any surprises you want to predict for the state of play tomorrow. Not too much for surprises. I don't think we're going to get many, to be perfectly honest with you, except for maybe some release dates for some like long anticipated indie games. I could see Little Devil Inside getting a release date. I could see Stray getting a release date. So I could see things like this. But again, I'm not expecting anything like shocking here at all. And it's good to see you, Split End. Thanks for being the best mod in the business. All right, we just had a super chat drop. Thank you so much for the super chat from Frostbite Slash here with a 5. Thank you so much, Frostbite. I hope the connection is good on your guys' end. I'm getting nonstop buffering alerts, but hopefully it's okay for you guys. I still haven't gotten my Ethernet cable. I know. I have horrible memory. You'd be surprised, and I still haven't got it. I have to get it. So I'm sorry. Hopefully you guys can see me. Frostbite Slash here with the 5. At the end of the blog post, they said more info coming throughout the summer. Do you think they'll have an event at the end of July or early August? Frostbite, this to me was very interesting, especially with the wording. So I sent out my first tweet on this, right? And I actually deleted my first tweet whenever I read the blog. The very first tweet that I sent out, I said that, this reinforces my belief that we're not going to get like a big summer showcase from Sony, because this was like more of a low-key kind of state of play in the way they were talking about it. So I was like, okay, this is July now. This is what they're putting out there. That probably means no big summer showcase. But then I reread it and I did notice that little spot right at the end of the blog where they said, more info coming throughout the summer. That could go either way, right? That could mean that they are going to have a big giant showcase in August or something like that. But I actually still don't think so, Frostbite. I think the way it was worded, how it said throughout the summer, kind of more implied that they might do separate little announcements like they've been doing, like with Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, randomly announcing the Housemarque acquisition, the Director's Cut of Death Stranding kind of just being part of the Game Awards, which I know isn't a first-party game, but it is tied with Sony, right? So I'm thinking that we may not get a summer showcase from Sony. Kind of right now what I'm expecting, and this is just a guess, y'all. This is not any insider info or anything. It's just kind of looking around the landscape. I think we're probably going to get one in September, which I know can technically still be considered summer, right? So if you want to consider that very, very late summer, you could say that. September, I'm thinking, is when we get that next big showcase, kind of getting out there before the holiday games start dropping, get that excitement pumping so people run out and buy PS5s, not that they already aren't. So September is kind of what I'm expecting now. Don't think July, don't think August. For a big showcase, we're going to get more news, we're going to get more announcements, but I think that big PlayStation, here's God of War, here's all this, September's kind of what I'm thinking for that. Thank you for the super chat, Frostbite. Elias Stapleton. Hi, do you think Sony will have another event? Kind of what I was just saying. I think everyone was expecting another kind of event this Thursday. I wasn't, but I know a lot of people were. But is hypocritical. People say Sony doesn't show indies, and then an indie state of play is happening. But when do you think Sony will show the big guns, and what happens if not? Yeah, I was not on this train that there was going to be a big showcase soon. If anyone that looks at my Twitter account, I was even tweeting about that, right after they announced the director's cut of Ghost of Tsushima. To me, it read like, yeah, they're not going to have a big showcase soon. And some people were like, oh, this is Sony getting, the small stuff out of the way so that they can talk about just big stuff at the showcase. But that to me didn't make too much sense, right? So I was leaning towards there not being a big showcase. And this to me says there's not, at least not soon, right? Maybe there's going to be one. Maybe it does come in August, right? Or maybe at the very end of July. But like early July, it just seemed with them announcing Housemarque, with them announcing Director's Cut. Like, yes, these are things that you necessarily don't have to feature in a big showcase. But, I mean, they're still nice things to kind of pad the show out. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting one, I was like, what I mean, before those announcements came out, I was expecting we were going to get one. But once we had that week of kind of random Sony news, that's when I was like, ooh, I don't know if we're going to get a big showcase. So I'm still kind of sticking with that. I'd love to be wrong, but September, I think, for that. And yeah, focusing on indies here is probably pretty good. They have a lot of indie partners that they haven't given us updates on, right? Like, when was the last time we saw Little Devil Inside and like a real update on that? Or like I mentioned, Stray is another one that they announced along with like the PS5, right, early on. And we still haven't really gotten some updates on that. There's that game Seasons that I think looks amazing. Like, there's quite a few indie games they can talk about that would be exciting. And Deathloop's not that far away, right? So they got to kind of market that too. So I think you're going to see the big guns, but probably not until like September. Dino Bravo. Why is Nintendo so horrible to their fans? No price cuts on games, outdated graphics from 2 generations, and slow download speeds. Well, Dino, I'm not going to go as hardcore as you are on this one. However, I do think that Nintendo's not above criticism, right? I do think that they make some choices that are just flat out weird and, yes, behind their competition in some ways. On the other hand, look at how massively strong Switch hardware sales are. Look at how amazing their games sell. So, like, if you're Nintendo, right, do you feel really extreme pressure to make giant changes in the way you handle things? Like, I mean, if you're working for Nintendo, the only pressure that you get in terms of, like, people, like, visibly upset with you is in that, like, super hardcore community. Like, the flat out facts are people are still going out and buying Switches in droves at a record setting pace. They're still going out and buying quite literally tens and tens of millions of copies of software. Like, Nintendo Switch is going to sell more first party games than any console ever has. More than any PlayStation system, more than any Xbox system, more than any Nintendo system. By the end of this generation, I mean, it's going to be, they will have moved more first-party software in this console generation than any generation before ever has. So, like, if you're in Nintendo's spot, and again, I'm not saying this puts them above criticism, right? Nintendo, out of the big three, is my least favorite, okay? I still like Nintendo. I still play Nintendo games, but I personally jive more with, like, what PlayStation's doing, with what Xbox is doing, than what Nintendo are. So I don't think they're above criticism. I think that there's a lot of work they could do on their internet side of things, especially their online. I would love to see them push graphics more and things like this too, like on a personal level. But if you're Nintendo, like, you're just making so much money. There's no external pressure to make radical changes in terms of the economics of things. So that's kind of why you're seeing them not go out there and make, huge strides in their online space, or, push the most cutting edge tech they possibly can, because frankly, they don't need to. Like, they have their own market and they're selling at extreme levels. So that's really all it boils down to be frank, right? Like, Sony and Xbox are pressured to push, right? Like, Xbox got way ahead of PlayStation early on with online. And that's one reason why PlayStation really had to push hard on improving their online. And now PlayStation has a great online, great store, right? Their external push was Xbox because they're more directly competitive. Same thing with why you're seeing Xbox now have to greatly acquire and push their first party. Of course, that ties into Game Pass, but also that is that external push from PlayStation. Their first party became so powerful during the PS4 generation. Not that they didn't have big games and big exclusives before the PS4. The PS4 is really where you saw the PlayStation first party go to the next level. And that, of course, is going to put pressure on Xbox to compete. So they're pressuring each other, and no one's really pressuring Nintendo. So that's kind of why you see them just keep doing their own thing. Oh, we had a super chat pop from Timmer72299. Thanks so much, Timmer, with a 2, saying no question today. Just wanted to show my support. Thank you so much, Timmer. Or I think it is Timer, but I'm always going to stick with Timmer because, it's a thing here. Keep rocking on Twitter. Keep digging up interesting stuff. You always are. And thank you for being so supportive in every chat. Diagazo. Do you think God of War gets its own state of play, or is Sony hosting a big event later? What you think? Have a great day, Benji. Love your live chats. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Diagazo. I love doing the live chats. They're literally my favorite thing I do, right? I talk about that, pretty much every chat because it's true. Don't get me wrong. I love Twitter. I love, all the other stuff that I do, all the research, but I love the live chat, right? The live chat to me is special. I know it's not like huge. It's not out there getting 100,000 views or, 1,000 people live, but I love this chat. It's my favorite thing. So thank you, Diagazo. I'm glad you like it too. And in terms of God of War state of play, I mean, that could happen, but I think Sony will have that as part of a larger showcase. Yes, Horizon got its own state of play, and God of War probably will too, but closer to launch. But honestly, I think that Horizon got its own state of play partially because of what we were just talking about, right? I don't think that there is a big PlayStation showcase happening soon. If you were going to have one, in that June, early July timeframe, it would have made sense to sit on that Horizon just a little bit longer, right? We're talking like a month or so, month and a half longer, and just put that as part of a showcase. So having that there, the Ghost of Tsushima announcement, right, Housemarque, like once you add all this together, it does kind of make sense why you still haven't seen Sony be like, hey, big showcase soon. So I think God of War will be part of its own, like part of a big showcase. I don't think that will premiere at its own state of play. But yeah, probably a little later this year, right? Probably September. September's the month that I keep sticking with because I think if they waited till October or November, like then you're in the prime bulk of the holiday season. I wouldn't do that. Even October is whenever you're getting a ton of games dropping and a lot of eyeballs on other stuff. September, though, you're still early enough that you can kind of, get a lot of attention. So that's my prediction, and God of War probably there. I think we just had a super chat drop. Let me hit that super chat. Frostbite Slash here with a 10. Thank you so much, Frostbite. That's your second super chat. Holy cow. And a pretty good sized one, too. Thank you, Frostbite. Thank you so much. We haven't really got a sales update recently for PlayStation games. Yeah, I know, it's unfortunate. To date, how much do you think The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Miles Morales, Demon's Souls, Returnal, and Ratchet and Clank have sold? This is fun. Let's just take some guesses. So Frostbite, this could be radically off. I mean, radically, right? This is because, like you've said, we've gotten no updates on these. So this is going to be me just kind of looking at charts and kind of thinking where other games have sold and kind of estimating. So take everything I'm about to say with a massive grain of salt. But let's go through each one of these. So The Last of Us Part 2, I would think that's got to be over 10 million by now, right? I would think so. Put it this way. If it's not over 10 million for how much that sold out the gate, I would think that would be pretty disappointing, right? That game sold, 4 million units in just a matter of days. So that's got to be over 10 million. It's got to be. I just can't see a scenario it's not over 10 million. How much over that? Really, who knows? I mean, legitimately, who knows? Is it in that 15 to 20 million range yet? I personally don't think so. Definitely not 20 million. There's just no way it's up to 20 million yet. I think they would have probably said something if that's that high, because that would have made it, one of the highest selling games of all time for PlayStation. I don't think it's hit that 20 million range yet, but I do think it's over 10. 15, I just don't think it's there yet. I think it's probably anywhere 10, 11, 12, right? You know what I'm saying? Kind of right in that spot. That would make sense to me for The Last of Us Part 2. Ghost of Tsushima, what was the last update on that? We did get an update on that. I mean, not a super long time ago. What was that? Because when they announced the movie, we did get an announcement of that. Let's see. Where is that at now? 6.5 million. Okay. So that was 6.5 million, and that was back in March. So that wasn't too long ago, right? That was only like another April, May, June, July, 4 months ago. I could see it being at 7 million now. I don't think it's over that, right? That's another 500,000 between like 4 months, right? So I could see 7. 7 million sounds about right for Ghost of Tsushima, considering the legs we've seen. So 7 million. I really don't think it's over that. I don't think we're at 8 or 9 million yet. That would have been a really fast pace for where it was at 6.5. So probably 7 million for Ghosts. Miles Morales is over 10. Miles Morales has to be over 10 million now, or very close. It has to be. Miles was at 5 million the last time? And that was all the way back in December, right? Was that 5? 4.1. Okay, so it was a little under. 4.1, but that was as of December. Now we had January, February, March, April, May, June. We're in early July, so over 6 months. We're approaching like that 7-month territory. Not quite, but you get what I'm saying. Since our last update. And we've seen it have excellent legs, particularly a very strong attach rate to PlayStation 5 consoles. So I'm also going to say Spidey's at 10 million. If it's not at 10 million for Miles Morales, it is very close. If it's not at 10, it's at like 9. It's like right there, okay? It is right there. It's either right there or at 10. Again, don't think it's hit that 15 million number yet, but it should be 10 million or very, very, very close. Demon's Souls is a massive wild card. We never got a single number for that. I don't think it's super high. I'm gonna guess around 2 million for Demon's Souls. It's never placed ultra high on NPD charts or anything like that. I mean, it hasn't been a bomb either, right? It's not one of those games that never is charted anywhere. It hasn't sold anything. But it also, to me, there's not much evidence it's huge. I could even see potentially like 3 million. It's hard for me to see 5, though. Hard for me to see 5 million. I'm going to guess 2 to 3 million for Demon's Souls. Returnal, I think, is over 1 million, but I don't think it's much over that. 2 million's a possibility, but I don't think so. I think it's just over 1 million. And then Ratchet and Clank. I'm just going to say 3+ million. Okay, 3 plus. It would be my guess. I don't think it's like 5 million. I think we would have gotten an announcement if it did 5 million that quickly. I'm going to say 3 plus million since launch, right? How many weeks ago was that now? It's been a few weeks, so 3 million. So those are my guess, okay? Take all that with a grain of salt, but I think you guys saw my thought process on that and at least saw us trying to approach it logically. So to wrap it up, Last of Us Part 2, over 10 million, but under 15. Ghost of Tsushima, I think it's at 7 million. Miles Morales, right around that 10 million mark, 9 to 10. It's got to be very, very close to that. Demon Souls, I'm going to say 2 to 3 million. Returnal, above a million. And Ratchet and Clank, 3 plus million. That's kind of my thoughts on each one of those. I don't think I'm radically off, okay? There's going to leave some room there, but I think that is probably the right ballpark on most of those games. All right. Elias Stapleton. Last question. Game Pass helps sales, but why all third-party sales, NPD, UK, even games with marketing rights with Xbox, it's like a split of 90, 80, 70% more in PlayStation than Xbox. I imagine you saw this data. Yeah, so it's the ongoing discussion, right? Does Game Pass cannibalize sales? Does Game Pass boost sales? It's, to me, a mix, right? I think there is a lot of evidence it boosts certain game sales. I mean, here's the thing. It's not just a theory. There have been devs that have flat out said it has boosted sales. On the flip side, like I've said in the past, there are certain games that I think have been cannibalized. Gears of War 5 was one of those games. Gears 5, I do believe, was cannibalized by Game Pass. We just saw with Dungeons and Dragons, right? Wasn't that a D&D game? Had like a ridiculous split in the UK. I think it was like 90% PlayStation or something like that. That to me, again, that's not ultra shocking. That game wasn't reviewed all that well. If you're an Xbox user and it doesn't get high reviews and you can just try the game if you're a Game Pass and you don't got to pay for it, considering it doesn't seem to be like a high caliber game, I don't know why you would buy it, right? I think you would just go into Game Pass. Elias, my guess here, and this is from an outsider perspective, right? I don't have all the data Microsoft does. I think there are games that are getting boosted by Game Pass and games that are not getting boosted by Game Pass in terms of full price sales. But one thing to keep in mind, okay, this is very important. Very important. And you guys know I'm Benji-Sales, right? I love to talk about sales data. But keep in mind, these publishers are still getting money from Game Pass. So maybe you don't sell as many games, right? But how much revenue are you getting? You could be getting a lot of revenue depending on what Microsoft paid you for that Game Pass deal, right? So that is a massive X factor that, frankly, we're just never going to have the data for because those contracts are done in private. How much did the developer of Dungeons and Dragons get to get that game on Game Pass, right? How much money? I don't know. You don't know. Like, no one knows, right? So it's an open question. So it's one of those things. It's going to be a case-by-case thing, I think. I think some games are going to get that lift. Some games aren't. And, yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on it. But unfortunately, there's no way to know how the actual money shakes out for the publisher in terms of like, hey, if you did, let's just say theoretically, if you did lose some sales, is it all right, though, because that money you got from the Game Pass deal, more than made up or made up whatever you thought you would have lost anyways? You know what I'm saying? It's a bit of an open question. But I don't think it's as simple as to say, because you'll see some people flat out say, oh, Game Pass boosts all game sales. I don't think that's true. Or then you'll see people say, oh, it cannibalizes all game sales. I don't think that's true either. I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle because I think we have evidence of both. We have evidence of games that did really, really well after being put on Game Pass and then games that didn't, right? So I think it's just going to depend on the game. Hamishly Ford saying hello. What is up, Hamishly Ford? John, do you think Ubisoft doing more live service games interesting, getting into that Assassin's Creed stuff, is so it can give them time to rework their engine, or do you think it's something else? John, I don't think this is like a technical thing. I literally think it's just Ubisoft, kind of just chasing trends a little bit. You know, here's the thing. I'm somebody that in the past, like, you know, over the course of like especially last generation, I was someone that really praised Ubisoft. And not just in terms of like, oh, I love their games or whatever like that. I meant like in terms of how they read the market, right? Ubisoft had so many games, especially in last generation and headed into this one, that had so much success, right? They had so many games that just sold tens of millions of copies, right? 10, 15 million plus. They had just, you know, it seemed like virtually hit after hit after hit, like very few misses. And I'm a little worried. You know, I talked about this after their last earnings call that I was on. I was a little alarmed with some of the stuff they were saying. And now this, I'll be honest, I am slightly worried Ubisoft is becoming a company that is developing their games like just based off a spreadsheet. I think you need to have the right balance. Do your games need to be fiscally smart, able to earn a lot of money, you know, find success in the marketplace? Of course, right? Of course you need to do that. But like, I don't think it needs to be only that, right? Like games also are still a form of entertainment. It's about that right balance, right? And I think if you're specifically just designing your games like spreadsheet, literally all thought process behind this is how much money can we make and what are the other trends? I think that is very high risk because trends in this industry change a lot. And that is one thing that I loved that Zelnick from Take-Two said on their earnings call when they were asking him all about, you know, there were like investors on the call and they were asking him what he thinks about, you know, things like VR and AR and cryptocurrency and the metaverse. And his response was like, you know, yeah, that's all great, but like, what is the end of the day the most important thing? It's making good games, good characters, good stories. Like at the end of the day, like no matter what trends change, that is like the core most important thing. If you're gonna find success, it's making good games. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Ubisoft's approaching Assassin's Creed Infinity or now going free to play with games like The Division or, you know, lots of online focus with, you know, like really a huge chunk of their upcoming slate. I don't think they're going in there like, oh, let's make bad games. Like, of course not, right? These teams are super dedicated to making quality, but I am a little worried that management pressure is starting to really chase trends. And what happens if those trends shift, right? What happens if people don't like that you made this one particular game a service game and you poured a massive amount of money in it and it flops, right? So trends are important, but I'm a little worried. I am a little worried how Ubisoft's like free to play, free to play, free to play, online, games as a service, like everything. Like for a lot of their stuff, okay? There's still going to be a few games that aren't like that. We got Mario and Rabbids on the way, which isn't. Avatar seems to be a single-player focus, just kind of open-world game. So it's not like that there's none of that in the future, but man, does it feel like that this is starting to be a company that operates off a spreadsheet only. So I am a little worried about that. I'll be frank, I'm a little worried. All right. Justin Tanhill. Crytek is working on an unannounced AAA FPS. Could it be Crysis 4? Yes, Justin. So their whole release slate leaked out. At least like what they were working on. Whether these games are all going to hit market or not, I don't exactly even remember how this leaked, but it wasn't just like an insider posting it. I think it was like literally from within Crytek's company, like something leaked documentation-wise. And spoiler alert, if you don't want to know their upcoming projects, but at least when this leaked, Crysis 4 was one of those games. Another Rise game was one of those games. A sequel to their VR game, Robinson or whatever it was called. There was a sequel to that was in the works. The Hunt was in the works for mobile. Put it this way, Justin, yeah, I mean, I'm like 99% sure Crysis 4 is coming. Yeah, I mean, especially with them doing these HD, you know, re-releases of Crysis and stuff, like, yeah. I would peg it at 99% Crysis 4 is on the way. Yep, I think so, Justin. Definitely think so. Ken B. How do you think the Switch OLED will sell compared to the OG and Lite? Light has been about 1/3 of Switch sales since launching. Do you expect about the same from OLED? Ken, that's a great question. In the short term, I think it will be less than standard, right? I think it'll be less than the standard Switch, because that's just going to be the bulk of your sales. It's always been the bulk of the sales from the very beginning. I could see it being a little higher than Light, actually, during like regular months. During the holiday specifically, I could see Light being higher than OLED, because keep in mind, once you hit like that, October, November, December period, you have a lot of gift givers buying and a lot of people that aren't normally buying consoles that are going out and buying consoles. So during that time frame, like holiday, I could see Light above OLED. I think whenever you're outside of holiday months, right, just your regular Marches, Aprils, Mays, I could see OLED ahead of Light, but still behind standard Switch. And like I said earlier, I think eventually this completely replaces standard Switch. My guess for that would be next year. My guess would be next year they completely, I don't know when, but they completely remove standard Switch and OLED becomes the new standard model. And maybe they drop $50 by then, right? Maybe they ride out this $50 price increase over the holidays and over the first few months of the year. And then maybe next summer, OLED gets dropped to 50, and then there's no more standard Switch. So then it would be obviously OLED way higher than Light. But in the short term, while all three of these on the market, holidays, standard Light, OLED, I think non-holiday months, standard OLED Light. But that's just a guess, right? Brad Myers. What is the Kojima and Microsoft partnership about? Brad, I don't have like a ton of like super insider info on this. I had heard about this before any of these reports even went live. In fact, I posted receipts of it on Twitter. I normally don't do that, but I posted literally a picture of me talking about this, that I was hearing that this could be a thing all the way back in March. So I had heard that rumor. I hear tons of rumors. I usually don't talk about most rumors I hear, because the reality is most rumors turn out to be fake, y'all. Like, we just saw that with Switch Pro, okay? Maybe there's still a Switch Pro coming. I don't think there is, right? And I don't think when I say most rumors are fake, it means most rumors in the rumor mill are like being faked for malicious reasons. Like, oh, I'm purposely leaking fake stuff. I think just a lot of confusion happens. People don't line up their sources quite as well as they should and make sure it's true with not just one source, but like 2 to 3, sources to really vet that this is legit. But I mean, I'd heard that those rumblings, Microsoft might be working with Kojima, all the way back in March. And I posted a screenshot of me talking about that in Discord on that. So that is literally all I know. Okay, that is literally all I know is those rumblings. Microsoft and Kojima could be working together, and I don't have any more info for you outside of that, right? And Grub has posted more info than I know, right? That is quite literally the only thing I heard that was insider status before these reports came out. That was literally it. I had just heard back in March, hey, Microsoft and Kojima could have a thing coming. And then you saw reports of that come out quickly afterwards. I think it was April that Grub posted his story about that happening. So, there is discussion. I'm pretty sure about that, considering I heard it and Grub heard it completely separately, not the same sources whatsoever. So I'm inclined to think those discussions are real. But what game that is, if it's actually going to become a signed thing, I mean, I don't have anything more for you there. I just don't. I don't have any sort of extra info. Justin Tanhill. Do you think we will get a Quake reboot? Yes. Yep. I've commented on this a bunch, so I won't spend a ton of time on it. But Justin, I think it's going to happen because, like I said before, id found so much success with their Doom reboot that it would be shocking to me for them to not at least try to pull that off with Quake. At least once, right? I said this before, if it bombs, oh well, at least you tried. Now we can set Quake to the side for, who knows, the next 10 years, right? 15 years. We don't got to think about it. But I think after you successfully bring Doom back, it does so well for you, you might as well try Quake, right? you might as well try it because, hey, if it does hit and it's a success, boom, you just brought back another franchise. You have another huge successful property on your hands. If it misses, then you don't live with, well, maybe we could have. You're like, okay, we tried. Just Quake, there's not interest there. So time to put it to the side. So I think you will, Justin. I think you'll see them try Quake at least once. Yep, I think it will happen. Legendary No Sleep saying, Benji, congrats on 25,000 followers on Twitter. You've earned it, buddy, with some hearts and clapping. Thank you, Legendary. Like I said, the support really over the last year has been ridiculous. I mean, I passed 20,000 in April, and now here in July, we're already at 25K. That's 5,000 more people in just a few months. So that, I mean, that means so much to me. I'm not someone that obsesses over follower count. It is very cool, you know, because you guys all know, like, eventually my goal is to somehow be able to make a living off this, right? I'm so passionate about it. So whether that's doing my own thing, whether that's Twitter, YouTube, I eventually start a Patreon, or I go work for some company, you know, I mean, who knows, right? Who knows how that shakes out? My goal is to somehow do something like that. But so followers is important for that because, of course, it does help make that more of a reality, right? The bigger the following, the more odds that I can make it somehow are. But I don't obsess over it. You don't see me constantly posting like, oh, I need more followers, or I got, you know, just today I got 1,000 more than, you know, I did a month ago, right? I kind of tweet about it at Milestones because it is very cool and I want to thank people. So, like, you probably won't see me tweet anything about follower count until I hit 30,000 if I do. But it's awesome. I really appreciate it. The support this past year has been especially amazing. Lorenzo, I wouldn't be so negative about Assassin's Creed if it wasn't because out of 20 live services, only 2 are good and successful. Yeah, I need to hear more about it, Lorenzo. I totally get it. You know, this news does not thrill me. I'm someone that's played every single mainline Assassin's Creed game since the very beginning. I remember playing Assassin's Creed 1 when there was no other Assassin's Creeds, right? It was just Assassin's Creed 1. And I remember at the time, I mean, I was pretty young then, showing that to my dad and like riding, you know, coming up over the hill and seeing the city and being like, wow, this is just unbelievable. And of course, Assassin's Creed 1 had its issues, but then you hit like Assassin's Creed 2 with Ezio and Brotherhood, and like, man, I just fell in love with the franchise. And overall, I've liked the vast majority of Assassin's Creed games. I am worried. I'll be just frank. I'm worried about the direction Infinity's taking. I'm not going to write it off. Like I said, I'm not going to just instantly assume that this is going to be bad. I need to see it. I need to hear more about it. I sent out a tweet, and the thing I'm most worried about here is that Assassin's Creed just becomes this like generic sort of create your own assassin thing. I think the thing that makes Assassin's Creed good, right? The people that really love Assassin's Creed, I think it's that, you know, each game we're getting like a new time period. It's so exciting to see what they do with this new time period, and also having that character, right? Having that Ezio, having that Cassandra. And I know newer games have kind of like, you know, brought in more variety by letting you play as like a male or a female, which I think is great, right? It's an amazing addition, but they still feel like characters, right? Like Eivor felt like a character. Cassandra and Alexios, especially Cassandra, felt like a character. Didn't just feel like this generic, you know, pre-made thing. And that is what worries me. I really hope they don't go that direction of create your own assassin, or if they do, that's just like a multiplayer component, but you're still going to get a nice chunky single player experience with a set assassin character. So that is what worries me. If they get rid of that completely, like there is no character that you can play as and see their story, it's only create an assassin, that would to me would be a massive turnoff. Like huge. That would be the worst news for me out of all of this. So I really hope that's not the direction. You know, like I said, if you have that as an option, you can go in and co-op and make your own assassin. That would be fun, like as an addition, but don't lose that like character. I feel like that would be just such a bad choice. So that's what I'm most worried about. But I don't want to judge it too harshly. Let's see the game first. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. Ooh, this is a fun, really positive question here from Gary. I really like this. What do you think are going to be the best gaming studios this generation? Man, this is fun. You know, I mean, so many, right? There's so many. So let's go through, you know, like a couple for each, right? Sony, I mean, you got to put Insomniac in there. I mean, boy, is Insomniac on an amazing run, right? Insomniac, without a doubt, is going to be one of the best studios of this generation. They're already off to an amazing start with Miles Morales and Ratchet and Clank, and this gen has barely even started. So you got to put Insomniac in there for Sony. I mean, of course, Naughty Dog is going to deliver some incredible things. My only worry with Naughty Dog is, do they get kind of stuck just doing, you know, The Last of Us over and over and Uncharted? Like, I really hope Naughty Dog gets a new IP out this generation. I think they will. But that is one thing for me that's a little like, oh, I hope they don't just do The Last of Us. And I know they said they're done with Uncharted, but I'm sure Sony's still trying to get an Uncharted game made. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony management is approaching Naughty Dog being like, I'm not saying force it, but being like, hey, we would really love for you to make an Uncharted game. So, little cautious around that, but either way, it's going to be high quality. But if I had to just guess, like, who's going to be Sony's most impressive studio this generation, I think it's going to be Insomniac. But there's a ton of talent there, right? Sucker Punch is insanely talented. Naughty Dog's insanely talented. I mean, I could go down the list, but I'm going to say my prediction is Insomniac has just an incredible generation. For Xbox, I think you need to keep a really close eye on Obsidian. Obsidian is one of those studios similar to Insomniac in that they tackle multiple projects at a time. I feel like, you know, now having that backing by Microsoft, that's going to help a lot. They were already a studio that could juggle multiple projects, but now you're getting that funding of being first party. I think Obsidian is a big one to keep your eyes on from Microsoft. And of course, you're going to have studios like Ninja Theory and, you know, Playground. I mean, I could go down the list, but I'm kind of trying to point out some that I think will really, like, establish themselves this gen. I think Obsidian is one to really keep your eye on. For Nintendo operates differently than the other ones, right? They kind of just have different teams that just, like, do stuff. It's not like individual studios. So that's a little bit harder. I'm just going to say, you know, Nintendo's going to do well. And then for third parties, I hope, and this could go radically wrong. Okay, so this is a wild card prediction. This is a total wild card, but I'm going to predict this gen sees the resurgence of BioWare. And I know, y'all, that this is playing with fire, okay? But I love the little bit we've seen about what they're doing with Dragon Age 4. I really like where it seems they're going to take the next Mass Effect. This could go way off. This could go way off the rails, right? They had a really rough last generation. But I think this could be the gen where we see BioWare really reestablish themselves. So I'm going to put BioWare in there too. But there's so many, right? I mean, I could list a million studios, but those are just some off the top of my head. I really think we could see some great stuff from Insomniac, Obsidian, BioWare, and tons more. Oh, wow. Gary says in no particular order, I'll say Nintendo, Obsidian, Rockstar, Insomniac, Bethesda, Santa Monica. Ooh, Remedy. I like that Remedy call. You guys know I'm a Remedy fanboy. I'm a Remedy fanboy through and through. I like the Remedy call, Gary. Good choice. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, Logan Hardy. So now the rumor is that the big event from Sony is in August. I could see it, but I'm still saying September. From the Reddit leaker who correctly predicted July 8th event, what do you think? I don't know. I'm always cautious with leakers, okay? I'm always cautious with this because so much of this stuff's wrong every single day. So I'm always cautious around believing leakers. I don't think it's impossible. Right now, I'm sticking with September, but I could see August. I could see it. I could see August. I won't rule August out. I think July is out the window. I really can't see July, right? We have a state of play now. That's already this week. I don't see them squeezing in a showcase at the end of the month, too. So I'm going to predict September, but August is possible. It's possible. Sounds PP7. Are you excited for Esports Boxing Club? What do you think its sales potential is considering the current roster? Big names like Canelo Alvarez, and there hasn't been a boxing game in a decade. I haven't been following this super close. I know there is a lot of demand for a new boxing game. Ever since Fight Night went away forever ago, right? They were just focused on making UFC games. They do that for a couple reasons. First of all, it's easier for EA to make a UFC game strictly because all they have to do is license out with UFC, right? And they get access to that entire roster. So part of the reason there hasn't been a new Fight Night. So many people are always like, why is there just UFC and no Fight Nights and only UFC? Well, first of all, I mean, the odds are, and I know boxing fans don't want to hear this, UFC is bigger than boxing nowadays. It just is. It just is. Okay, I'm sorry. I know boxing fans are going to get mad. And big boxing fights, the biggest boxing matches, right? When Canelo fights, it's a huge deal. When Floyd Mayweather fights, it's a huge deal. I mean, even the last Lomachenko fight didn't do crazy numbers, right? I didn't see a ton of buzz about Lomachenko, but I thought he looked amazing. Ryan Garcia is a big deal. Tank Davis is a big deal, right? Tank is becoming a big star. So it's not that boxing doesn't have stars, and when there's a big fight, it's not a big deal, but it's more like the occasional thing, whereas UFC is just consistently has high viewership, right? Like, of course, some stars are bigger than others. You have McGregor fighting this weekend. That's going to be gigantic. It's going to be a way bigger deal than a random fight night. But just like if you were to just overall base it, more people nowadays are watching UFC than are watching boxing on just a regular weekend basis. So that's part of why EA has focused on making UFC games and not boxing. But also, like I said, you can just license UFC and you get the whole roster. Boxing is divided between different promotions, different managers and deals with TV networks. And right, you got to go out there and make a deal with Top Rank. You got to go out there and make a deal with Golden Boy Promotions if you want Ryan Garcia. Like, you get what I'm saying? You got to make multiple different deals to get a big boxing roster. So I think it's just easier for EA to focus on UFC. I think esports boxing could be big, though, if it's good. There's a lot of people that want a boxing game, and there hasn't been one in forever since Fight Night. So I hope it's good. If it's good, I'll definitely play it. I love boxing. I love MMA more, but I love boxing. You guys know me. I'm a combat sports enthusiast. But, yeah, I hope it's good. Hope it's good. I mean, heck, I know just as much about combat sports as I do about gaming, if not more, okay? I am obsessed with combat sports. I've always said if I didn't, if anyone just, this is a random thing, I don't talk about myself a lot, but like, if I didn't go out there and try to really pursue having like a social media platform built around gaming, I would have done this around combat sports. Like, no matter what, I'm the kind of person that wants to talk to people and like be active online. So I think you would have always seen me pursue something. If it wouldn't have been gaming, though, it would have been combat sports. I would have been talking about MMA, boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. Like, you would have seen me doing that instead. I mean, maybe not you, right, if you're not into that sort of thing, but that's what I would have tried if I didn't do video games. But I love video games, too. They're like my two favorite things, combat sports and video games. And music. Those are my, like, three passions. Okay, I think we had a super chat. Let me hit that super chat. 2 super chats. Joseki here with a 2 super chat. Hi, Benji. Your current game of the year. Mine is Nocia. Superb. I'm not familiar with this game, Joseki. I'm going to have to check that out. Is that an indie title? Let me know, because that's high praise. So I'm definitely interested in checking that one out. Let me know if that's an indie title and what platform it's on, because I'm not super familiar with that one. So that's a good shout out. I like whenever you see something you don't expect on people's game of the year lists. For mine so far, the 4 games that have stood out to me the most, and I haven't played everything, but the 4 games that I've really been impressed with this year are going to be Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Returnal, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and Resident Evil Village. I know that's a lot of AAA. I know I haven't shouted out many indies there. I haven't gotten a chance to play a ton of indies yet this year, but there's a bunch coming out I'm excited for, right? Really excited to play The Ascent. Really excited to play Kena Bridge of Spirits. And a bunch more, right? There's a bunch. Lake, I think, is one that I saw that I was interested in. So there's a lot of indie stuff coming up that I'm excited to play, and I know there's some indies earlier in the year I missed. So I'd like my list to not be only AAA, but those are the 4 that really I've loved. I've loved those games. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart was just sublime visuals, like maybe the most visually impressive game I've ever seen. It played great. It wasn't super long, but also that made it feel like it didn't overstay its welcome. Resident Evil Village was just awesome. I didn't think Village was as scary as Resident Evil 7 was, but I still loved it. I loved a lot of Village. Mass Effect Legendary Edition I thought was a huge home run. I mean, I loved Legendary Edition. I beat Mass Effect 1, beat Mass Effect 2, still need to do Mass Effect 3, but I thought that was a great, HD re-release of that. And, man, Returnal, what a surprise that was. That was great, too. That was great. Big Fresh 37 with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Big Fresh. I need an expert opinion on this question. What's Tommy Tallarico's problem? Okay. I'm going to show my American musical composer, video game composer. I missed this. What did I miss? Let me know. Big Fresh, what's going on with Tommy Tallarico? I honestly don't have an answer to this because I don't know what's going on with him. Let me know, and then I'll give you my best answer, okay? This is not a story that I have followed, so I apologize. I must have missed some kind of drama. So, Big Fresh, you paid for a super chat. Let me know what's going on with that. I don't comment too much on drama, but this is a super chat. Something must be going down. Let me know, Big Fresh, and I'll let you know what I think. Joseki responded, it's a Japanese indie game released on Vita. Ooh. First ported on Switch for the West. A visual novel, that plays almost like Among Us with a fantastic cast, plot, fourth wall breaking like Nier. Joseki, this sounds awesome. I'll check it out. So it's on Switch. I don't have a Vita anymore. If it's on Switch, I'll check this out. Good shout out, Joseki. I will look into that. That sounds awesome. I like visual novels, actually. I don't play a ton of that kind of stuff, but I have played some, and I like that. So good shout out. All right, we've been going for an hour. I'm going to keep going for another 15 to 30 minutes. So we still got time for questions. You guys probably hear my dog freaking out. Sorry, he's in the room with me and UPS is here. So get ready for some barking. Should have only lasted a Rush. Chill. Wow. Rush. Come here. Sorry, he's going to calm down in a second. He's going crazy because UPS is here. Wow. Sorry about that. Okay. Chill out. He's leaving. Calm down. Sorry. Okay. I think we're back to good. Sorry about that. Okay. We got about 15, 20 minutes more of questions, then I'm out. Because I gotta go to work. Dante21. Hey, Benji, do you think the lack of Horizon on tomorrow's show means it was delayed? No, Dante. No. I suspect they are going to announce a release date sometime this summer. But when that's going to be, I don't exactly know. Could it still get delayed out of this year? Yes, it is possible. You know, the wording that Sony used when they talked about this last didn't fill me with confidence it will be this year. I think they're targeting this year. I think their goal is this year. If everything goes right, they're still going to make this year. But it could get delayed. I don't think it's delayed out of this year yet. I don't think people need to worry about it not being in this state of play, meaning it's delayed. I think this is going to be a very low-key state of play. Like I said, It's going to be Indies and Deathloop. So, and like I said, maybe some third-party stuff. I could see Grand Theft Auto 5 PS5 edition being here. But Horizon not being part of this, I think, is just more of an overall thing. Like, this isn't a big state of play. This is a very low-key, chill sort of state of play. So, you'll get some Horizon stuff later. I wouldn't rule it out of this year yet at all. Could get delayed. I'm not saying it's not impossible it doesn't make this year. I just think it not being at this state of play doesn't mean anything. I don't think that's a big deal at all. I don't think anything big is going to be here. Justin Tanhill, Special Nick mentioned it is acquisition season. So you expect to see more acquisitions in the upcoming weeks. I mean, the 3 that I heard, which I think is the same 3 that everyone heard rumblings about. Do I even say this? I mean, it's public, right? This is not insider info, really. I mean, it's the same rumblings everyone's heard. Crytek, Avalanche, and what was the third one? Crytek, Avalanche, and someone else are the 3 studios that are rumored that Microsoft might be acquiring. I have heard those rumblings too. I have no idea if that's legit. So don't run off with that and say that's insider info that I know. I don't know at all if that's true. I have literally zero idea if that's true. But those rumblings were floating around. That Microsoft was talking to Crytek, to Avalanche, you know, who's making that game Contraband for them. And there was a third one too. I can't remember what the third studio was now off the top of my head. I don't know if that's true. Y'all, I don't know. IO Interactive. That was the third one. IO Interactive. Yeah. Those are the 3 that are rumbled. Again, I do not claim insider status. I have zero idea if this is true. And also, I'm not the only one that said they heard about those rumblings. This is a known thing. I mean, it went public. I saw people posting about it. So I have no idea if that's going to happen. Could be 0 of those happen. Could be 1 of those happen. But those are the rumblings. Crytek, IO Interactive, and Avalanche. But I have no idea. I have no clue if that's going to happen. Okay, I think we just had a super chat. Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. This is out there. 1, do you see Bethesda pulling a Bungie and leaving Microsoft? No. 2, if they do, would they keep the IPs? I love what ifs. Highlander, almost a 0% chance of this. Mostly because the Bungie thing was like an... So here's the thing. Bungie didn't just leave Microsoft. Microsoft, like let them go. Like, they owned them. So you can't just leave. Like, Bethesda can't just leave. Microsoft themselves would have to let that happen. I don't see any scenario they let something they spent $7.5 billion just walk, right? The Bungie thing was, there was a bunch to it that caused that to happen. But it was also like a much smaller deal than $7.5 billion. Bethesda will never leave Microsoft unless Microsoft sells them. Like, they'll actually sell them because they'll make a lot of money. Like, if they were going to, if Bethesda at Microsoft wasn't going to be a thing, it would be because Microsoft was like winding down the Xbox division, and the way they would do that would be to turn around and sell Bethesda for billions of dollars, right? It wouldn't be like, oh, we're just going to like hash out a deal. You can give us some money and we'll let you go independent. Like, no, they would take all of Bethesda and be like, hey, Amazon, hey, Sony, hey, Take-Two, EA, I mean, whoever, they'd be like, yo, we're winding down Xbox. Somebody buy this studio. They would like just start selling off their studios. So it was, yeah, and Ashu's saying I think Bungie was a contractual thing. Yeah, I don't know all the details about Bungie, but basically it could have happened. Bethesda, they'll sell. Like, if they ever get rid of Bethesda, it's going to be they turn around and sell them for billions of dollars. So hypotheticals are fun. There is a scenario Bethesda isn't at Microsoft, but I would say the only way that happens is if Microsoft's completely exiting Xbox. Like, Xbox is done. We, at some point, 50 years from now, decide we don't want to be Xbox anymore. That's the only way. Because they flat out bought them. Everyone was freaking out about the dog. Yeah, sorry about that. I know that did not sound great, but it was because UPS pulled up and my dog went crazy. Okay. Isildur's Bane. I think Xbox is going to be extra petty and make a big acquisition announcement an hour before Sony's State of Play. Could happen. I mean, like I said, those three studios were heavily rumored. Crytek, IO Interactive, and Avalanche. Those would be some pretty big gets. I know not everyone loves those studios. People are going to have different ideas on that. But like in terms of like head count and like IP you'd buy, I mean, it'd be a bigger deal than Sony buying Housemarque. Now, to be clear, I'm not necessarily saying that in the future, like moving forward, that those studios would be putting out bigger or better games than Housemarque. But I'm saying, like, if you look at, like, just what you're getting, I mean, any of those three is bigger than Housemarque. All those three have had bigger releases than anything Housemarque's released, including Returnal. And also, all three of those have a bigger headcount and they own more IP. So, again, this isn't saying one of those things like, oh, you know, Housemarque is just, it doesn't mean anything for Sony. I think Housemarque's going to become an incredible team for Sony. I'm just saying, like, if you purely are talking about what's the bigger historical acquisition, any of those three are bigger than Housemarque. So, you know, whether you like their games or not, I mean, that would be a pretty big deal if they announced any of those three. If they got Crytek, IO, or Avalanche, that's a pretty big deal. So we'll see. We'll see. I have literally no idea if any of those are going to happen. That's just the word on the street that they at least talked to those three. But I don't know anything besides that. Split End 89. I'm super excited for Little Devil Inside and Stray. Same. Both of those. I'm very excited for both of those. Interesting question from Isildur's Bane. Benji, do you think Nintendo and Sony's policies will start to catch up to them? They're living in the 90s as we're headed into 2022. I see them losing market share if it continues. That's a little harsh. I think there's things that you can criticize Sony and Nintendo on, but I think there's things you can criticize Microsoft on too, right? I think Microsoft's in a position where they're making more positive changes than both of those other two companies. I think that is definitely true. However, I would also say that both of those two were in a better position than Microsoft. So Microsoft and Xbox had to make bigger changes, right? Like, Nintendo is coming off an unbelievably successful generation right now. Sony is coming off an incredible success with the PS4 and is off to an incredible start with PS5. So both those companies are in a position, you're having so much success, like, you don't need to make radical changes. Microsoft is coming off what was, I mean, at the end of the day, the complete failure of the Xbox One, right? It was. There's just no other way to shake it out. Xbox One was a failure coming off of the 360. Now, did they rebound a little bit towards the end of the generation and start to put themselves in a better position? Yes. But as a whole, the Xbox One generation was a complete failure compared to the 360. So they had to make bigger changes. So I think, and they have. So very big shout out to Microsoft. This isn't discounting what they're doing. This is, I mean, I'm shouting them out. They've made some huge changes, some great choices, but they like had to. I don't see anything with Sony or Nintendo going negatively because their brands are so powerful and people love their games. I mean, you can get away with a lot. Look at Nintendo, they've proven it. You can get away with a lot. So, no, I don't see either one of them losing market share, no matter what they do. I mean, unless they like royally jack up. I don't see anything that Sony or Nintendo are currently doing as like giant missteps. There's some things that are annoying. There's some things that they need to improve on. But like, I don't see anything that is going on with Nintendo and Sony where I'm like, wow, this is a catastrophic failure of a decision. So it would take something radically bad for them to like just massively lose market share. And I don't think either one of them are in that sort of position right now, at least. You know, we'll have to see as the future unfolds. But nah, it's more just like annoying or small, you know, silly decisions, but nothing like game breaking. At least in my opinion. Brad Myers. Even if we don't get an official showcase in August from PlayStation, we will get a showcase on the Abandoned game from Blue Box in August, which will be a showcase in itself. Great point, Brad. At the end of the day, no matter what, I mean, we get the whole answer to what the freaking heck is going on with Abandoned and Blue Box. I'm still of the opinion that this is not Silent Hill and that it's not Kojima and that it's really an independent horror game. But it's been a wild ride, and at the very least, we should have a definitive answer in August. I hope I'm wrong. This is one of those that I would love to be mistaken on. I would love that Blue Box trailer thing to come out, and it's freaking Kojima and Silent Hill. I would lose my mind. I just do not think that's going to happen. But no matter what, it's going to be a show. No matter what happens there, that will be fun to at least finally know what's going on there. Yeah, King of the Dry Bones making some great points here about some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. I think it also has to do with Nintendo being more of a do-or-die company with zero backup. Yeah, very true. They have to be focused on games compared to Sony or Microsoft, which of course have other businesses. That's a great point, King of the Dry Bones. And then King of the Dry Bones also says the reason why Sony first party is so strong now is because of 362. They invested heavily during the PS3 era. Great points, King of the Dry Bones. I agree with both those. Yep, great points. Very good points. Ooh, Hataki Kakashi. Hi, do you think we are going to have Bloodborne Director's Cut in the next State of Play? I don't think so. But I still do think you will get something Bloodborne related eventually. To me, one of the biggest missteps in the entire history of gaming will be if Sony never pursues more Bloodborne. Okay, and I know that's going to sound like a hot take, and it is in some ways, okay? Do I mean that it will be one of the biggest missteps in terms of like financial disaster or anything like that? No. Make no mistake. I don't mean anything on like that grand of scheme of things, because while Bloodborne was successful, I mean, it wasn't this game that went out and sold 20 million copies, right? Something like Spider-Man and The Last of Us even. These are like way bigger games than Bloodborne. But what I mean by it would be just a colossal misstep in every measurable way. This is a game that is, I mean, core beloved to an incredible degree, and to just sit on that IP and literally do nothing with it, I mean, man, you want to talk about a mistake. That would be a huge mistake. I'm not saying you need to go out there and spend $100 million on another Bloodborne game and make it this giant ridiculous scale thing, but like, if you never make a remake or remaster of the original Bloodborne or a sequel, what are you doing? Like, that would be it's impossible for me to think Sony management would be that out of touch. My OBS crashed. I don't know if anyone can see me. I streamed through OBS and it said it just crashed. Well, I have so many technical issues. I don't know if I should still keep streaming or not. I was going to stream for 15 more minutes, but I don't know if you guys can see me. Okay, you crashed, but you're back now. You're there. Yeah, sorry, it was OBS. Actually didn't even have anything to do with my internet connection. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. It actually had nothing to do with my internet. It literally got an alert. I've never had that before. That OBS went down. So sorry about that. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to do about 10 more minutes and then I'm going to go. 10 more minutes and I got to go. Thank you for a great chat, everyone. Thank you for being so supportive as always. You guys are amazing. We're going to go for about 10 more minutes and then bail. Here's a good one. That boy Young, PlayStation Plus have been giving gamers of PS5 day and date releases since it launched. Sony need credit. I agree with that boy. I've mentioned this before. You want to talk about heading in different directions in terms of like Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus to me has definitely gone up in value since the PS5 launched. And boy, has Xbox Games with Gold gone downhill. I mean, literally opposite directions. And I think we all know it's because all of Microsoft's funding for free games is going directly into Game Pass. But I do agree with you, that boy young. Sony do deserve credit for how much they have improved the free game offerings of PlayStation Plus. They really have. They really, really have. I would still say Game Pass is the better offer and deal of the two. I personally would say I still do think Game Pass, between just Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, I think Game Pass is better. But PlayStation Plus, absolutely, they need a big shout out. Absolutely, Sony has done a great job of improving that. No doubt about it. Can be predictions for release dates of Call of Duty and Halo Infinite. They're going to avoid each other, both of them. They're both going to avoid each other. It's not even just Halo avoiding Call of Duty. It's actually Call of Duty avoiding Halo too. And Phil basically confirmed this in IGN Unlocked. So in that interview he did with them, he said how, he didn't say the game's names, but we all know what he meant. They were talking to him about the Halo Infinite release date. And Phil Spencer said, obviously, there are third-party games we want to not release right next to. And he said, and actually, it's like the same thing for them. So we're like in communication, and we have it narrowed down to a few-week window, but we're talking, figuring out the dates. I think it's because neither wants to launch on top of each other, right? Like, of course, they're going to be different games and have some different attraction, but at the end of the day, they're both going to be massive FPS games, and I don't think you want to release those in the same week, right? I don't think it's good for Call of Duty, and I don't think it's good for Halo, especially because now that Halo's multiplayer is free to play. Because a lot of people, even if you love Call of Duty, are probably going to at least try that Halo multiplayer because it doesn't cost them anything. You know what I'm saying? So if you're Call of Duty, you also don't want to launch like right next to Halo. So they're going to be close, probably within just like 2 or 3 weeks of each other. But total guess, I think Halo hits first. And I think Call of Duty is going to come in hot from rumors and come in late. So total guess here, I think Halo might be late October, like the very end of October, or the very beginning of November. I know that puts it close to Forza Horizon, but my guess is that Call of Duty is going to be the very end of November. I still think that they're going to hit November, but it could come in at the end, or maybe like right before Black Friday week. So maybe like maybe even that week. I don't know, but like very, very late November for Call of Duty. So I would say late October, puts them close to Battlefield, but I mean, there's just not much room, y'all. If you look at this holiday now, it is stacked with big games. So no matter what, they're going to be close to somebody. So very, very late October or very, very early November, and then Call of Duty very, very late November. Those are my predictions. I think we had a follow-up here to what happened with Big Fresh. He's behind the Intellivision amiibo, but long story short, he threatened to sue a journalist for doing journalism. Oh, and my question was mostly a joke, so don't worry about it. I don't know about that. Suing a journalist for doing journalism seems awfully silly, right? That seems awfully silly. I can't make like a super informed opinion on this because I haven't followed it. So unless this journalist was radically out of line, threatening to sue a journalist for doing their job seems awfully silly. Again, as long as this journalist wasn't doing anything illegal, as long as they weren't doing anything just like very, very sketchy, seems like an overreaction, right? Seems like an overreaction. All right. I'm going to just take like 2 more questions and I'm going to bounce. Like 2 more questions and we're out. Ken B said, I'm going to remind you in all of your tweets to get an Ethernet cable. Okay. I'm going to go to the store today and buy it. I'm not going to push it off any further. I'm buying the Ethernet cable, okay? Today's the day. Today is the day. JCat. What is up, JCat? So good to see you. Thanks for helping mod the channel and being amazing. The Switch OLED is $350, which is more than the Xbox Series S. Oh, wow. Which will sell more? Oh, wow. That's a good question. The easy answer, you would think, is to just say the Switch OLED, right? Because the Switch has had such a powerful generation. It's been such a huge success. But I'm telling y'all, I think Xbox is going to have a really good generation. Like, I really think the Xbox is going to do well this gen. Lifetime, I don't think it's going to outsell the Switch. But so many Switches have already been sold. So the question is, man. Here's what I'll say, JCat. I'm still going to say Switch OLED worldwide. US, I think Xbox Series S is going to outsell it. And this is while they are different products. Now, of course, if Switch OLED becomes the regular Switch, you still got to put Switch OLED above Series S, right? If it's like the main model, if they end up getting rid of regular Switch and it's just light and OLED edition, you got to go by default with OLED. Even in the US, I would think. Globally, I'm still going to go with the OLED. Because globally, I just think Switch still has more appeal than Xbox. But in the US, if these remain 3 distinct products, I mean, I think Series S might outsell the OLED. Yeah, I know, JCat, you're saying specifically Switch OLED versus Series S. Yeah. Man, that is honestly a fantastic question. Man, that is fantastic. That is a good question. I'm going to still say Switch OLED over S. US, though, I'm telling you, could be a toss-up. Xbox is going to have a way better generation than they had with the Xbox One. To me, there's just zero debate on that. Zero. I think there's zero question. And in particular in the US, obviously, right? That's Xbox's stronghold. US, I could see Series S ahead of Switch OLED. Globally, though, I still got to go Switch OLED. Especially because you know that is going to be a beast in Japan, right? Like, it's going to sell so many in Japan. So globally, still going Switch OLED. US, do not roll out Series S over OLED. Don't do it. I'm telling y'all, especially as production capacity increases, I mean, it could happen. I mean, Xbox is going to sell a lot in the US this gen. I'm just telling y'all, it's going to sell a lot. Do I think it's going to sell more than the Switch overall? Not necessarily. Do I think it's going to sell more than PS5 overall in the US? Not necessarily. We need to see how things go, but it's going to sell a lot. It's going to sell a lot. All right, Plastic Hearts Podcast coming in here with a 5 super chat. What is up, Plastic Hearts? Thank you so much. I'm going to do one more video game question after this because it's an MMA question. So I'm going to hit this. Then we're going to go with a video game question, and then we're going to call it a chat. So Plastic Hearts with the 5. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts. That means a lot to me. Thanks for being in chat. Always being so supportive. Benji Boy, enough of the Switch OLED. Assassin's Creed Infinity. Who, what, where, and why? Who you got for Conor Poirier 3? I'll make this quick for the non-MMA fans. Then we're going to go with a video game question. And then we're going to call it a chat. Conor Poirier 3 is fascinating to me, right? The first fight was a complete domination by Conor. Knocks Poirier out. Makes it look easy. Does it quick. But that fight was a long time ago. Then you fast forward to McGregor Poirier 2. McGregor cleanly wins that first round, y'all. I think he won it on every judge's scorecard. He also won it in my book. He was kind of piecing Poirier up quite a bit in that first round. Now, it wasn't like, oh, Poirier's almost finished. It's like game over. But, like, Conor clearly was the better fighter in that first round against Poirier. But then, wow, did the tables turn in that second round. And then Poirier ends up getting that KO. I am of the belief that a lot of that win by Poirier does partially come down to the stance of Conor and his approach to that fight. He was very boxing heavy. He did not have the light in and out movement, that karate style he had in some of his earlier fights and his most successful wins, right? When he knocked out Jose Aldo, how did he do that? He was so light. He was so light on his feet. I mean, you see him doing that bob, and he comes back and counters as Aldo's moving forward, right? Aldo lunges in, Conor real quick reads it, comes back, and boom, right on the chin KO. So that style McGregor is the guy that's at his best. When he's real heavy, I mean, when you go back and watch that second Poirier fight, he's very heavy, he's very boxing stance, and I think that he thought he was just going to go in there, read what Poirier was going to do and knock him out with a nice, heavy boxing stance where he's really sitting down on his punches, and it didn't work, right? Instead, he got his leg eaten up, and then he got knocked out in that second round. So if we see the very fast, quick twitch Conor McGregor, I think you could see him win this fight. But if he comes in and he looks at all like he did in that second fight, I'm going to give it to Dustin. If I had to make a prediction, if I had to make a bet, I'm going to go with Conor second round knockout. And I know that's bold. I know that a lot of people are picking Poirier, and Poirier can win this fight. Definitely can. He can knock Conor out again. Even if Conor comes in light and quick, he still could win, right? I mean, Poirier is a monster. But I'm going to go Conor second round KO. I just think I think he fights a lot different this fight. Thank you so much for the super chat. We had 2 more super chats come in right at the very end, so these are going to be the ones that finish our chat out. JCat with a 99 and just a cute little upside down face emoji here from JCat. Thank you so much, JCat. And then Big Fresh 37 with a 4.99 here at the end. Can we officially put Sea of Thieves on the same tier as No Man's Sky for a comeback story? Ooh. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's kind of hard to put one over the other, Big Fresh, but there's no doubt about it that Sea of Thieves has had quite a turnaround, as did No Man's Sky, right? Both of these huge turnaround stories. Split End makes a good point. He says, while I agree with the sentiment, I don't think Sea of Thieves was ever in as bad of a spot as No Man's Sky. And then Ashu Neji here saying Sea of Thieves had less content, felt empty in the beginning, but now is filled with content. Yeah. So I think that they're slightly different stories. Sea of Thieves, it was more about kind of like what they're saying. It was like a lack of content. It wasn't that Sea of Thieves felt bad or that Sea of Thieves didn't deliver on its promise or something like that, right? It was more like the early criticism of Sea of Thieves is yeah, the game is beautiful. It's pretty fun when you have friends, but there's just not a ton to do. Whereas No Man's Sky, people felt like they were misled, that it wasn't the content they were promised, that the content wasn't as good as it was made out to be. So, Big Fresh, there are different scenarios, but I definitely agree with your sentiment in that, can we put that, them both as major comeback stories? Yeah, no doubt. Yep, I think that's spot on, Big Fresh. Sea of Thieves has become, we talked about this in one of the previous chats. I mean, Sea of Thieves is it's become one of Microsoft's most successful IP. I mean, it's up there at the near top with some of their biggest franchises, right? It's up there with the Halos. It's up there with the, the Forza Horizons and stuff. I don't know that I would put it as number one as those, right? And of course, Minecraft's bigger than everything, right? Minecraft is the biggest, but it's right up there, right? Sea of Thieves, you just look at its legs, you look at its performance on Steam, you look at it on the Game Pass most played charts. I mean, yeah, Sea of Thieves has become one of Microsoft's biggest IPs, and had you said that right after the game launched, you probably wouldn't believe it. So that is definitely a major turnaround story. So yeah, I would say the sentiment is completely correct. Yeah, that Sea of Thieves and No Man's Sky are both games that completely turned around, just in a little bit of different ways. Okay, everyone, I'm going to call it there. Thank you for an amazing live chat. Thank you so much for all of your questions, whether they were just the regular free ones, whether they were the super chats. I appreciate it so much, everyone. Thanks for having a good turnout and yeah, all that good stuff. Really quick, here's my spiel at the end. Hit that like button if you like doing these chats. It helps people find my YouTube channel, helps the algorithm. You know the deal. Hit that like button and also subscribe to my channel if you're not already. We are so close to 3,000 subscribers, but boy, has it been a journey and a difficult one to get over 3K for me. So subscribe if you're not already. Like the video if you like doing these chats. I'll see everybody on Twitter, and we'll be back for another live chat next week. Okay, everyone? I will see everyone next week. We can recap here on YouTube what we thought about the state of play, whatever big gaming news there is there, etc., etc. Otherwise, I'll see you on Twitter. Stay safe. Play some games. I'll see you all next time. I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye, 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 bye. Peace. See ya. Bye, 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 bye. Bye, bye, bye.